Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Radix, are you always just sitting in a dark room with crazy sunglasses in a snuggie, a stormtrooper snuggie? And the answer is no. The answer is I go to work, and then I come home, and I sit in a dark room with a snuggie, a stormtrooper snuggie, and some crazy sunglasses, and with some hot chocolate. This is ASMR. I'm always like this. Oh, how do people drink hot drinks? Like, I love hot chocolate, but I don't like the hot part of the chocolate. It like why would you put something that used to be boiling just less than a minute ago into your mouth where your tongue, one of the most sensitive parts of your body, is? Like, this is just a mistake. It's like a it's like a feat of courage to try to drink this. Who goes there? Did you guys hear a random sound? Did Audacity hear a random sound? I heard a random sound. Alexa, what was that? I can't repeat music. You can't repeat music, okay. It might have been the Alexa. Today I did a quantum leap. Today I got an Alexa, a new webcam, and some Philips Hue lights so I can change the light in here. That's not why you clicked on this video. Let me get to the point. Transformers Lore, the most popular series on my channel, talks about lore with Transformers in it. Or does it? Today I want to talk about something that technically I've already made clear before, but since the last time I made a video about this was over 2 years ago, actually, in 2015, early 2016 maybe, I started Transformers Lore, and I released the introduction to Transformers Lore, which talked about I should not stir my drink while I'm doing this. I'm distracted. I am heavily distracted today, and I don't know why. My series Transformers Lore is essentially called Transformers Lore because that will get more clicks. That's the long story short. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I want you to consider the DC universe. When you say DC universe, people know what you're talking about. You're talking about that universe with Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and there's a multiverse, and sometimes there's an infinite multiverse, sometimes there's 52 universes, sometimes there isn't actually a multiverse, except yeah, there is. But if you say DC universe, people know what you're talking about. There are fans of the DC universe who will search DC universe, will search things like DC universe lore. Now, I want you to imagine a timeline not too different from our own, all things considered, where Batman becomes the only character people know from the DC universe. And I mean only Batman. There's some Batman films out, people are like, yeah, this Batman dude's pretty cool, everyone's talking about Batman. And then you bring up Superman, and they're like, what? What's a Superman? And some of them might say, Superman? Isn't that like weird dude they made those radio serials back during the 50s? You know, people who do YouTube channels about nostalgia might make a video here and there saying, whatever happened to Superman? You remember Superman from the 60s? You know, what happened to him? And then everyone in the comments is like, who? Literally who? Batman is the only character known in the DC universe in this timeline. Now let's say there's this one dude who really likes the DC universe. Technically, the DC universe still exists, but Batman is the only one people know about. People don't know who Superman is, they don't know who Aquaman is. In fact, they make fun of Aquaman. So yeah, still not all too different from the real timeline, but... And then whenever DC tries to do Justice League, people are like, what's this weird crossover stuff? Keep Batman away from those characters that can't sell. But there's still a person out there who likes the DC universe, and he wants to talk about all the deep lore of the DC universe. He wants to talk about the Guardians of the Universe. He wants to talk about the green and the blue and the red and stuff like that. He wants to talk about the Speed Force. But people haven't heard of that. People haven't even heard of the Flash or Aquaman or Green Lantern. They haven't heard of that. People only know Batman, and the dude loves Batman. Of course he does. Batman's the only one people know. But he wants to talk about the greater DC universe. And let's say DC hasn't even called it the DC universe. They just don't really give a proper name for it. It's just this shared universe that happens to include Batman. But this dude wants to make lore on that stuff on YouTube, and so he creates what can only really be called Batman lore. Because nobody knows anything else. Nobody knows what a DC universe is. That term doesn't exist in this timeline. And people are only really looking up stuff about Batman. That, my friends, is the situation in our timeline that my Transformers lore series exists in. That was all an analogy to my Transformers lore series. Because my Transformers lore series covers everything and it's hard to talk about it when there isn't really a proper term for it, but I used to call it the Hasbro Takara Tomy multiverse. Basically anything that had to do with Transformers that was in the Transformers multiverse, which included stuff like G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, and so on. G.I. Joe's my go-to example for this. But you know what? People don't care about G.I. Joe. People don't care about ROM, or at least the Hasbro Universe ROM stuff. Here's my gripe with the Hasbro Universe title. It's not a Hasbro Universe in the sense that all of Hasbro's properties are in one universe. The Hasbro Universe, like I said in my previous video about what makes the Hasbro Universe, is really just the G.I. Joe universe. It's the G.I. Joe expanded universe. Transformers in and of itself is a spin-off of G.I. Joe too. Everything in the Hasbro Universe eventually goes back to G.I. Joe. So for all intents and purposes, the Hasbro Universe is just the G.I. Joe extended universe. But of course, G.I. Joe doesn't sell, no one cares about G.I. Joe. You cannot market a fictional universe, a fictional brand, with the title G.I. Joe Universe. Putting Transformers from a marketing perspective under G.I. Joe would be detrimental to Hasbro, when Transformers is one of their best-selling toy lines. And yet their fiction all exist in one universe, and so they kinda half-heartedly stick the title Hasbro Universe on it, but even that didn't really catch on. So really, when you're in my position and you want to talk about everything in the multiverse, because in an alternate timeline you want to talk about everything in the DC universe, but people only know Batman, so really the only marketable name for it is Transformers lore. And in recent times, if you go to my Transformers lore playlist and stuff like that, you will see that there is a heavy bias for Transformers. And at this point, I think I've covered most of Transformers that I want to cover. Meanwhile, I have covered like only one part of the Real American Hero G.I. Joe series, which was a classic series, one of the best-selling series in comics when it was coming out. I still haven't finished the Chuckles saga from IDW. I don't think there's even a single video talking about Inhumanoids, unless you want to include the Rom Dire Wraiths video. So this is just a heads up that in the future, Transformers lore, and I am going to continue doing Transformers lore focusing on Transformers stuff, but I'm also going to get a bit more wider with what's in the Transformers universe, which essentially means a lot more G.I. Joe stuff and a larger variety of stuff. I'm trying to encourage more non-Transformers questions for Transformers more lore, trying to use relevant images that are outside of Transformers itself and but still in the multiverse, like G.I. Joe, for more lore stuff. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that stuff a little bit more. Or at least we're not going to shy away from it like I usually do. I understand that those videos get terrible views, a terribly low amount of views compared to some of the Transformers stuff, but frankly, Transformers lore as a series right now hasn't been doing too hot. It used to be I upload a Transformers lore video and I can usually trust that it will get around 1,000 views within 24 hours. Now I'm lucky if it reaches 200 views within 24 hours. So my Transformers lore series isn't where it used to be. Something has to give, something has to change. And it's not worth focusing only on Transformers at this point with Transformers lore, especially with how much you've already covered. So we're going to be, even though this stuff has always been within the jurisdiction of the Transformers lore series, this is just me saying, creatively I'm going to start headed out towards those stuff a little bit more. How do people drink hot drinks? But yeah, that's going to wrap up this public service announcement to clear up what my Transformers lore series is. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's kind of weird to enjoy a public service announcement, but I hope you learned something maybe, although I think most of you already knew this, to be honest. Is there any particular stuff outside of just Transformers that's still set in the Transformers multiverse you'd like to see me talk about? sometime soon, because, you know, it helps to get those ideas flowing. Let me know in the comments below. Consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to see this channel continue to survive. Please, God. I want to be able to continue living in a Snuggie with crazy glasses and hot chocolate in a dark purple room. You get to see videos early access when I get them out in time. And yeah, that's going to wrap that up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Huge thanks to our patrons, including this month's $10 plus patron, Josh Adkins. Check out the description for more patrons and more info about how you can receive a shout out here.
Just walk on by, stuck inside space and time. All that I got is you online. Tears filling up my eyes. Sorry.